Well, the old saying goes, defense wins championships, and it certainly did for the Philadelphia Eagles as they dominated the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They were up by 34 to nothing, Dalton, late in the third quarter. They held Kansas City to 22 points overall, but like I said, 0 points in the third quarter. What makes Vic Fangio's defense so good? Well, we have our X's and O's expert, former coach Dalton Wasserman here to break down the schematics of Vic Fangio's defense and what made it the best defense in the NFL this past season. So Dalton, just broad question, what makes the Fangio defense work?
So in general, before you even get to the board and the X's and O's and all that, right, it's always about your players, right? And you think about the guys that Vic Fangio's been around throughout his long career, right? Especially when you talk about starting at the linebacker position. He's got a background as a linebackers coach. He was around Ricky Jackson and Sam Mills with the Saints. He's, Ray Lewis with the Ravens, Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman with the 49ers. And then he's developed so many great young linebackers throughout the years too, especially recently as good as, Danny Trevathan played back in his days with the Bears. And then you have guys like Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean this year, right? And I think the broader theme to it is if the middle of our defense is great, we can use more of these too high safety looks and defend with lighter boxes, right? Because that's what you're trying to do is get that balance between your run defense and your coverage. So what did the Eagles have this year? The highest graded linebacker unit in football, the highest graded defensive tackle units in football, and one of the best safety pairs in C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship. So what we want to show is why these dynamics work with these great players down the middle of the defense and why the Eagles can use too high safeties so often, right? And the hard part about that is run defense, right? So we've got to play here for the Washington Commanders in their NFC Championship game against the Eagles, right? And what's going to happen here is this is all going to get washed down. We've got a bunch on this side at the top, up here, 3 up here, and everybody's going to get washed down here. The idea is to create a design cutback lane where the back is going to get off to the left side here. We're going to get a lead from Luke McCaffrey through the hole here. And we're going to get the cutback in through here to create this space. So again, if you look at this, two things that should happen. The linebackers should flow to their right to make these seals easier. We get this cutback and we have the alley getting one-on-one with the safety, right? If we go to now this next slide. Okay, this looks pretty good. What happens when you have great players and obviously a great scheme, but more so great players all around the middle of your defenses, they can take plays that look good for an offense and they can blow it up, right? So what you see happening now, as I mentioned in the picture, could get a seal here. We've got it. Most of this looks pretty good for the offense, right? I've got my lead coming out here, and I've got my back one-on-one with a safety, in theory, right? You get that going, you feel really good about an offense going against this, even against the best defense in football this year. Now, here's the thing. Just because it's too high safeties doesn't mean they can't help us out a little, right? We've got Reed Blankenship here. If your safeties are willing to support from 12, 13, 14 yards deep, they can meet him in the hole. Now, go to the next one. Look at how the space closed down. We're only talking about a 1 or 2 yard gain for 2 reasons. We go back on this. One, this linebacker beats the seal, right? That's Oren Burks right there. He's going to get sealed, but when you have good players, and even he's a good backup player too. You think about Nakobe Dean's injury. Now he beats this block. Blankenship comes screaming down. Slay is going to engage to the outside. So all of a sudden, where is there for the back to go? Nowhere. We see that in this next slide. Slay's holding the edge here. Out on contain. Blankenship comes screaming. Burt got around it. They're both in on the tackle. Short gain, right? 6-man box, 2 high safeties, but still able to defend the run with safety help. We're going to go to another shot. This is in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. All right. What's going to happen here? Chiefs are going to run power. Now, I want you to keep something in mind. These 2 safeties, this is why I went to the end zone shot, they're way back there. This is a 2nd and 14 play in a 27-0 game. Everything about this should work the way it's aligned for the offense, right? So here's what's going to happen. We're running power. When we talk about power, we're washing everything except for Travis Kelce. He's going to stay out here on the edge. We're going to run power right through here. We got the pulling guard right through there. Everybody else is down to linebacker because there's nobody in his inside gap. Creed Humphrey down here. And we seal the backside there with Joe Thuney. Okay, and it's straightforward. Kareem Hunt. There's the alley, right? We can see it. Clear as day, that's where we want to go. Hat on hat blocking, right? When they talk about that, that means even numbers for the offense compared to the defenders in the box on defense. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against 6 on the defense. Now, skip to it. Again, that looks pretty good right there. We got a couple of frames forward. Hunt's got the clear hole here. We're running power. Kelsey's got the seal. Puller's coming around to get the linebacker. We're starting to get a down block here. We've got the helmet on the right side. Everything's happening the way we just drew it up on paper. But football is not played on paper, right? We got great players. We got great defensive tackles trying to get over the top. Here's the new $50 million man, Zach Vaughn, right here. Go to the next slide. Look at this now. After it looks so good here with everybody all in the proper alignments, now we've got 3 guys to the play side. Right in here, my down block gets beat. Now we got our helmet on the wrong side. That's sealed. Zach Vaughn. There he came down, beats the puller to the spot. Josh Sweat starting to get inside here on Kelsey. All the lanes are blocked off. So when you have great players, you can even take great plays designed by the offense in the run game, even though you have 2 high safeties. Look, we don't see the safeties on the screen still. They're not even there. You have great players like Zach Vaughn, like I said, just got a new contract extension, $17 million a year. That's a big reason why, is because he can fill those gaps even when the offense has the play designed the way they want to.
So it's easy to say, obviously, Philadelphia's got superstars everywhere on their defense. But what specifically about the scheme that Vic Fangio runs makes it so unique?
So it's just a matter of having, again, those talented guys inside. And we'll get to the passing side of it later. If you're able to defend the run with more talented players just in light boxes with 6-man boxes, it's not even so much a scheme thing as it is, okay, these 6 guys can hold all the gaps and they can beat their blockers, and they're just, I mean, it really does come down to they're just better. When you have great players like that, at defensive tackle where they can clog all those gaps in between, at linebacker where they can fill in behind it like this and beat players to the spot and read pullers, it's really more at this point, once you get down to this lighter box, about teaching guys the proper technique and always where to be at any given time.
So, all right, we see before like how dominant they are in the run defense against lighter offensive schemes. What about when offense runs like 12 personnel, 22 personnel? How does it work as a run defense against those kind of schemes?
And that's a great question, because the answer so often against many defenses is, okay, we're going to get heavy. We're going to get, like you mentioned, 2 tight ends on the field. We're going to get a fullback on the field. We're just going to out-heavy him. Eventually, we will get the numbers enough in our favor against most defenses that we're just going to run them over. This is something that, say, a team like the Buffalo Bills has a problem with as much nickel as they're in, right? So here's the thing, though. You do it with Vic Fangio, all you do is put him in a time machine. Here's what I mean. This right here, 3-4 defense, old school, right? This is the base of what Vic Fangio's done for years and years. It's just, okay, well, I got 5 defensive linemen. It's really, they call it 3-4 because it's 3 down and 2 standing. On the lower levels, we'll call it 5-2. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing. 5 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and notice we're still too high at safety. All right, we still have 2 safeties back there, so we haven't compromised anything that we want to do in coverage if we're Philadelphia with regards to still stopping the run. We've just got another defensive lineman up here helping us, but we're still not giving up big plays over the top. And honestly, if you're a defense and you do 2 things, you stop the run and you don't give up big plays over the top, that leaves you kind of a small window as an offense to operate, and that's what we saw in the Super Bowl against Kansas City and really all year. So again, there's not a whole lot of detail here, but we're going to go to another shot. Now, let's look at it from this angle. This gives us a better look at it when I talk about filling all the gaps, right? So, got a tight end, got a fullback. We got to match 7, right? 5 up front, 6, 7 here. Got to match 7 with 7. That's what we have. Now we talk about, okay, contain. We're here, kind of reading on the backside to this A gap first. Here. Dean's reading this B gap. Jalen Carter's going to kind of 2-gap this. He goes inside, and what happens if he goes inside is Dean can work outside him. That's fine. They're kind of sharing those 2 gaps. And then obviously the contain out here. But you look at it, one way or the other, every gap is filled. And that's fine. That's if you have a 6-man front against 6 and every gap is filled, you're good. If you have 7 on 7, you're good, right? Go to one more look. Now I want to talk again about Zach Vaughn, okay? This is a 3-4. This is a more traditional spot. He can flow from that side. But what was Zach Vaughn before he was a linebacker, especially full-time this year?
Put a little edge defender.
He was an edge defender, right? Let's say we want to get even heavier against especially a team like the Saints who uses 2 tight ends a lot. All right, now, still have a tight end and a fullback, same side. What do you notice here? Well, there's 6 defensive linemen. Well, yes, but that's Zach Vaughn, right? This is part of what makes him so valuable. Not only can he beat blocks, not only is he a great tackler, not only did he lead the league in coverage grade this year, the fact that he still has all that edge experience from his time at the University of Wisconsin and with the New Orleans Saints, ironically enough here, the fact that he can do this so comfortably and allow everyone else to slant in and fill these gaps the way they need to, and Dean's kind of a free runner back here as the only guy, and we can get here and here, all the gaps are still filled, right? And it gives you a different look, a flatter look, to even further contain the edge and make teams okay. And still, again, we're still in too high safeties, right? We're still not giving up shots over the top, so they're going to make you, out of this formation, basically have to get right in behind the linebackers and make tight window throws and make quarterbacks make harder throws. So even if you get heavy on them, they have options, one, because they have talented players. You're talking about this guy's going to make $20 million in free agency. That guy's going to make a boatload of money one of these days. Carter's going to make a boatload of money. Zach Bowen just made $17 million. You have great players, but you also have flexible players that can move into different alignments.
So you mentioned before like how good they are in run defense. That wasn't really the story of the Super Bowl was. The story of the Super Bowl was how they just completely shut down Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes in the passing game. They led the league in coverage grade. They led the league in explosive pass rate allowed as well. What does this defense do in terms of against the pass that makes it so dominant?
So we're going to actually cut to the week before, or 2 weeks before that, against Washington, against the Commanders, right? And one of the big signatures of Vic Fangio's defense, it's great to talk about two high safeties and all that, but what makes his so different? Well, he uses a lot of what's called cover 6. Why is it called cover 6? It's cover 4 on one side of the field. It's cover 2 on the other side of the field, all right? So you're talking about, well, 4 plus 2 is 6. That's where we get it from. We do real complicated stuff around here. Anyway, here's what you're going to have, all right? This is pre-snap. We're in trips for Washington. So there's a couple of problems here. One, anytime a team comes out in trips, 1, 2, 3, right? 3, it should be the other way around. It's really 1, 2, 3. You count it outside in, but either way. And then our other problem is none of these 3 guys are the best player on the field for the Commanders. The best one's up here. That's Terry McLaurin. All right, so you really have 2 separate problems presented to you. Now, how do we deal with all of this at once when the best player is by himself up there and we got trips on the bottom of the screen here? Well, here's what's going to happen. Quinyon Mitchell down here, going to go back and take a quarter. Essentially, once this first receiver gets beyond about 68 yards, he's taking him in man. That's what's going to happen. As long as he doesn't go underneath, he's going to take him. Cooper DeJean, he's going to bump this second guy, and he's going to sit in a curl flat, right? And then what makes it cover 6 back here, you got another quarter for C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and then you've got Reed Blankenship up top with a deep path, and it all just kind of rotates from there. All right, that's the big thing, though, is you're really giving a quarterback 2 different looks on each side, because Jaden Daniels is seeing cover 2 to the top of the screen and cover 4 to the bottom of it, all right? Let's see it in action. Here's what we have. Now we're getting into it. Quinyon sees one getting vertical. He's going to go with him at the bottom. Just going to match him. That's all him. DeJean, notice here we get the bump, right? We're going to get the bump. We're going to pass him off to Gardner-Johnson. He's going to take this inside. CJ's going to drive on this, right? In theory. We're going to get to a tweak on that in a minute, though. DeJean down to the tight end. Linebacker sitting. And notice this, Terry McLaurin up top, right? That's the guy we're worried about constantly. 17. That's who you got to worry about for the Commanders, right? What this allows you to do is get the numbers game going here at the bottom of the screen, and yet look at all the attention on McLaurin. 1 inside, 2 outside, 3 deep. Where's he supposed to go to get open? Right? That's exactly what you want. The ability to cover both the formation at the bottom and then a team's best player at the top is what makes cover 6 here so fun against a team like this. We're going to roll to the next shot. I even found a way that maybe I can get Terry McLaurin open if I'm Cliff Kingsbury and the Commanders, right? So here's a shot, couple frames later. Again, Quinyon matched up, not worried about that. DeJean matched up, not worried about that. Darius Slay is going to get down to the back. That's fine. Here's my problem. I got one receiver coming across, and I told you already that Gardner-Johnson is going to match the second guy going vertical, right? Here comes McLaurin screaming on down. Well, there's going to be nobody left. Check out Reed Blankenship back here. See him making that call? See him pointing in that direction, calling it out? Over is what he's saying. He's telling Gardner-Johnson, hey, we got to switch this off, okay? Because zone coverage is not just about getting to a spot and standing there and watching. That's what bad teams do in zone coverage, is they stand there and watch, and then they wait, oh, I gave up 20 yards, but I'll make the tackle, at least it wasn't a touchdown. That's not what we're doing here. We're back here communicating and knowing, even though it seems like the defense a lot of times, well, they don't blitz at all, and they don't really run a couple of coverages. What's so complicated? Post-snap. Post-snap is what's complicated. Blankenship makes this call. What does that mean? He now is going to drive down to this route here, and we're covered. Gardner Johnson hears it. Oh, shoot, McLaurin's coming over, best player on the team. I better get here. Now, I just circled all 5 receivers. Who's open? Nobody's open. That leaves 2 options, and this is good. Look at his pass protection. This is great protection, right? Look, we've got this whole bubble here for Jaden Daniels to work with, and yet nobody's open, and this is what makes you such a great two-dimensional defense. Now, on I believe it was 3rd and 13 or 3rd and 14 on this play, Jaden has 2 options. He can check it down on 3rd and 14, win for the defense, or what he does here is take off running, doesn't get the 14, a win for the defense. So just a matter of when you talk about marrying coverage to pass rush, and it's been talked about how great the Eagles' pass rush is. This is the part that made this defense special this year, going from 28th in coverage grade last year to 1st by a mile this year, and it's because they can stay in these schemes and they run them so well.
You got elite scheme, you got elite talent, and as Dalton just pointed out, elite communication as well. Some of the Philadelphia Eagles, the best defense in the NFL this past year, and one of the biggest reasons why they were Super Bowl champions.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.